Hello?
Hi Craig, it's Janet with Chicken Soupers.
Hi,
Craig.
My name is Craig Judell. I was a police officer for a total of 31 years. Right now I have pulmonary edema, blood clots in the lungs, CHF, which is congestive heart failure, COPD, which is cardio obstructive pulmonary disease. But with Chicken Soupers and the limited income I have, it's nice to get a home-cooked meal. It's a warm thing that people, they care a lot about you. Mwah.
You know what?
I started developing relationships with some of these people, and I felt like I really wanted to spend more time with them.
Some years after I was diagnosed with HIV, I suddenly became bedridden and very weak, and also I think a lot of people don't understand. You can't think straight, you can't see straight, it's very difficult. And JFCS sent Janet over, and she was just willing to do anything, but what I really wanted her to do was be there and talk with me and have tea.
And now he's one of my very close friends. And then they asked if I would be interested in having a disabled person.
My social worker initiated the contact with the Jewish Family and Children's Services, and they sent me a volunteer, and the volunteer was Janet.
I just fell in love with her. We have wonderful conversations.
I have multiple sclerosis, which means it's primarily considered to be a disease that affects the legs. And as it began to be harder and harder for me to walk, I finally had to go on disability. And the apartment that I lived in at that time was up 3 flights of stairs. And when I moved in, I could climb them. But as things progressed, it got to the point where I couldn't.
One time to go to the dentist cost her almost $500 because they charge you by the number of steps that they have to carry you down. So she really needed to get into a facility that was wheelchair accessible. JFCS really helped getting her into Menorah Park.
Janet has made an enormous difference in my life.
And my other client, Deb, is also a wonderful person who I just love.
I suffered a brain injury in 1997. Janet's been so important in my life because I do have so few friends. We go walking very often and we talk, and she cheers me on. Janet helped me to have the confidence to go back to writing. I consider it to be the Lord's work that I've been put in a position where I have a devoted volunteer called Janet. I know that I wouldn't have been able to recover so much for Hashem if I hadn't had Janet.
The escort program is a really fabulous program. It's so wonderful, and it's easy to do.
Well, the escort program provides a service which dramatically impacts the quality of my life. I can depend every week on a round trip to someplace I need to be.
Well, I feel very fortunate to have someone like Alan to take me to the dentist. I think that's very kind of him. And so we have very pleasant conversation, and it's like an outing to me, like I'm going someplace besides the dentist.
I am legally blind. I use one of those white canes, red-tipped, when I go out and about. I am hearing impaired. I wear 2 hearing aids, and I have a rotten back. And so my formula for living life is to, with assistance, be as independent as possible. And the escort program provides that for me. And the icing on the cake is when the person driving you is a charming dude. The first time Alan called to arrange to pick me up here, he said, "May I bring Daisy?" Sure.
whoever.
It turned out that Daisy is this enormous, fluffy white dog.
Laura has limited vision. The dog is very tactile, is something warm and fuzzy that welcomes you into their lives.
Anatoly started to use his wheelchair like he was 12. We lived in an apartment on a 5th-story building on the 5th floor, no elevator. I had to carry him up and down every day.
There were no services in Ukraine for people with disabilities, unfortunately. You can't imagine those wheelchairs. People could not get where they need.
In Odessa, he stopped going to school when he was like 8 years old. And this period from 8 until 13, actually like 5 years.
Jewish Family Service gave us a volunteer, Russian-speaking woman, and she helped us to apply for everything like Social Security, get through first physical, find doctors.
Going to school like in America, that was such a big deal for me.
It was like miracle for me when come bus with equipment, they take him at school, and he every day come by, bring him home. He can go to movie, concerts, store, everywhere.
This cricket not supposed to go to New Orleans at all, just changed course. When we came back to house, we had just window opportunity for 2 or 3 hours, that's all. We saw that mold everywhere, wet rugs on the floor, some furniture disintegrated.
In house, smell was so bad that you want to go outside. I can't see actually what I want to take because it was really not good.
When it happened in New Orleans, my first thought was that they should come to San Francisco and Jewish Family will help them, that's for sure.
Anatoly is somebody with whom you can sit, talk, laugh, and you don't think for a moment that you're dealing with a person who has to endure this very serious disability. Muscular dystrophy. You just think that here's a young man who's interested in things, he's open-minded, and again, extremely pleasant to be with.
It changed their life. It's not words, it's not something, oh, it sounds great, change somebody's life. It really changed their lives.
The thing back to like my grandparents and the World War II generation, because in Russia it was a terrible time, and compared to the things they had, bad things that happened to them, our stuff is really nothing.
Despite all obstacles in their lives, they live life of happy people. That's the story. They are happy people.
Biggest lesson I learned is treat everything with humor. That's the biggest thing I learned from my parents, and it works.